Thank you all for sharing your time with me today. Praise be to our Elohim, for he is our strength, he's our power, he is the magnificent one. Okay. Let me see here. Stop my resume my share. Can you see my screen?
Hey.
Awesome. Let it be established. All right, so this basically today is going to be a lesson number 8 is a summary of everything that we've learned up to this point. So this is a great opportunity for us to ask any questions, get a little bit more clarification, and get ready to prepare to go into lesson number 9 and 10 and 11 and all those other ones. Okay, so what we've learned. It says in this lesson, they're not going to introduce any new information. Rather, they're going to go over all the other things that we talked about up to this date. So number 1, we understand what a verb is. We know that it describes an action that someone did in the past and doing something in the present, or something will be done in the future. And they tell us what pages we need to go. So when I send this over to you, you'll be very familiar with it. They also talked about how you can find out if a verb is in the past tense, the present tense, and the future. And that's basically, where does this letter go? So they're trying to simplify how to understand how verbs work, which is very easy, really. Something that's in the past, they're going to put a letter on the end of it, okay, of that in particular 3-letter root. If it's something that's in the present, they're going to put a letter right in the middle of the word because it's in the middle of doing something, meaning present tense. And also, too, if it's in the future, what they're going to do is they're going to add a letter to the front of that verb. So in those examples right there, we see a letter added, we see a letter in the front, the back, and in the middle. Okay, so that determines how, what's past, present, and future. A really easy, quick way to do it. And of course, there's more information to be learned about how these tenses work. Okay. There's other rules that surround this, but I like this book because it just simplifies everything. I'm reading collegiate basic Hebrew Bible grammar and the structures, and sometimes it gets a little confusing and complicated because they tell you rules, but they don't explain why. You know what I mean? So that could be a challenge. But for our learning environment, let's just keep it simple. We learn too that there's 3 different ways or different ways an action can be done. An action can be done in a very simple way. It can be done in a forceful way. It can be done in a causative way. And so we have group 1, 2, and 3. It's very self-explanatory. I ate, I devoured, and I caused someone else to eat, which I fed them. The 5th thing that we understand is that in each of these types of verbs, in these groups that they have, they actually named them after a group. Like I said, group 1 is the simple, which is an action is being done in a very simple way. Group 2 is the forceful way, and group 3 is the causative. And so later on, they're going to look at how one would, at the end of the book, go over these and give them more official names. I've already shared those names with you because I wanted to familiarize you with it because, this book was actually designed for children. So, we are like children when we're learning, but I wanted to share with you because we always have questions like, what does this mean? What's the official name? I give you the official names, which are the Pa'al, the Pu'al, the Nifal, the PL, the Hiphael, and all those different types of things that you've learned, okay? Because we can do that. Let's see. All right, so let me see. They gave us some examples. Just going to briefly go over these. So we know what our signs are, what are the symbols that were used to describe these types of actions. So the actions for the simple would be this one right here, which is an ah sound, okay? A little simple with your vocabulary, ah, right? Vocalization. That's a forceful way, e, okay? Forceful. So ah is this one, and e is this one, okay? And this one here is a hey being added onto the front, which I also have a problem with, is because sometimes, you look and you see this hey, you're like, oh, that means the, that could mean the or the. But also too, what they failed to tell you is that when you got that hey that's added onto the front of a verb, there's always a yod in the middle. That's what I wanted to share with you too. It's not just a hey, it's actually a hey and a yod. That's what you'll see with the hifel, right? So it'd be a hey and it'd be a yod right inside of the root, okay? Which we went over, okay? So again, e, and then the hey in the 1, 2, or 3 dots. It's just basically letting you know that, of course, this is a causative way. Any questions so far that someone has? And don't get frustrated if you're learning this and, sometimes you're going to forget things and sometimes it's not going to stick to you. But the more you read and the more you study this, it's going to kind of stick with you. Eventually it will stick. So let me encourage you with that. Okay. It will stick. So don't be too hard on yourself. Like, I don't remember everything, and, don't feel like, well, I can't learn, and I don't know because of all these different things. All right. So, also too, we understand from it being a past tense, they went over the active way that something can be done, but also too, it was the passive way that something can be done. Okay. Which means, for example, we say that was eaten or was devoured or was fed in the Lashon HaKodesh, which is the set apart tongue. We learn that we have to use what we call the passive forms of these verbs. And basically passive means that the action, you're not actively doing it, okay, but you're looking at it from the perspective of that which the action was done upon. For example, there's a simple, there's a forceful, and then there's the causative, right? Those are our 3 ways. Okay. In each one of these, there's an active and there is a passive. And it goes both ways, all the way down, in all these different ways that can happen. Okay. So simple can happen first way, or it can happen the second way. Simple. An action can happen in a forceful way, which makes it number 3, actively, or it can be passively, 4th way. Causatively, you can actively do it, which is the 5th way, and then here it is, the 6th way. So right there, what they have introduced to us are 6, what they would call stems, or what they would say verbal stems. The way that something can actually be done. There's 6 different verbal stems, okay, that we have been introduced to so far. So to do something passively, the symbols have to actually change. So this is the reason why they're introducing us to the passive forms that are following below, and their vowel patterns. So these are just other symbols that tell you that how something has been done. Okay, so this is active. This is passive. Two dots, the 3 dots, the 1 dot. See? So all they're giving you is just different pieces to your puzzle to let you know that something was. So when you look at this, it's not just making a sound, it's understanding that it's a passive form of a group number what? What is the noon in? Group 1, 2, or 3?
1.
Okay. This is group number 2, and this is group number 3. And they're telling you all the different ways that hay can have. It can have this underneath it. It can have this on the side of it, or it can have this underneath it. Right. So just something you just have to familiarize yourself with. It says in the last lesson, we learned that you can have a combination of an active and a passive form, meaning something that you could do on yourself. For example, you have this idea about dressing yourself. I dress myself. Well, doing the action upon oneself, this is the symbol that's being used, which is a tav and, the hay and the tav. That's a symbol of saying that I've done something on myself. Someone doing an action on himself. Okay. And it's not only himself, it could be herself or themselves. So anytime you see this symbol again, you'll know that it's a reflexive, meaning it can be an active and passive at the same time. It's a combination that's being done at exactly the same time. You're the one who's doing the action upon yourself. That's why they call it active passive. Okay. So active is you doing the action. Okay. The passive is the action is happening upon someone or something. Okay. So if you're going to do the action and you do it upon yourself, then what you have done is you've actively done something and you passively received the action. And that's where you get this symbol right here. Okay. And of course, it has pronunciation. What's pronunciation? How do you pronounce the hey and the top together?
Test.
Right.
Hith.
So we got the first letter, which is an H. We got the dot underneath it, which is the I. And then we got the TH sound. That's how you make that sound. Simple. Okay. How do you make this sound? What is that?
N.
Yes, as in noun. N. Okay, you make an N sound. So you can see you have symbols and you have sounds. So you have to remember the sounds and the symbols. If you don't remember what the sound is, what you do is you transliterate it. You take the actual letters and you write them out. First one's a H, the vowel underneath is the I, and then you got the TH right here. And that's what you got. Hith. Okay. And we call those the type 4 verbs. So you got group 1, group 2, group 3, and group 4. So this in particular verb right here called the hith, which they would call the hith pael, is in group number 4. And what they would call that is one doing an action on themselves. You guys have learned a lot. And you're not going to get it the first time. You're going to get it on several occasions. What you're going to get to here is I'm sending all this over to you. What you're going to see. Oh, what happened? Don't fail me now. What you're going to see. Let me see, where did it go? Oh, let me cancel. Something happened to the device. Come on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll say quit. Okay. Reopen and quit on me. That's what it was. Something happened to the system. Let's get it right here again. My apologies, you guys. Photos are quit on my system. All right. So here we have, you're going to get a summary chart. It's going to give you every last one of those identifying signs that you've learned. Okay. It's going to tell you what group it's in. It's going to tell you, how many, what form it is. And I don't want you to try to memorize this thing, what's the form. Just understand that there's, within each group, there's 2 different ways it could be done, actively and passively. Active, passive, active, passive. Okay. And then connect the symbols. Don't necessarily worry about the pronunciation. Just remember what the symbols look like. Okay. And what they represent. And I don't want you to say, well, that's you already know that. I want you to focus on saying, oh, that's simple. That's simple. That's passive. That's simple. That's forceful. That's passive, right? Active, passive, active, passive. But this is in group number 1. This is in group number 2. This is in group number 3. And this is group number 4. Okay. And you have to memorize these things. You do. Okay. And it's good. So you're going to get a summary chart of all that. Okay. All right. So In our 4 groups that you've learned about, everything has been dealing with the past tense. They're going to shift our understanding from the past tense. The next lessons that we're going to go to is dealing with the future tense. We're going to be dealing with the future tense, and we're going to be dealing with all 4 of these groups again. Right now, what we went over is that which is in the past, something that has been completed, right? Or in the mind of the speaker or the person doing the action, it has been completed. So next week, you and I are going to be introducing ourselves to the future tense of group number 1, group number 2, group number 3, and group number 4. And they're going to break it down like they did. They're going to start off with group 1, then we're going to go to group 2, then you're going to go to group 3, and then you're going to go to group 4. So you can see how they're operating, right? So once you learn these symbols, memorize them. And I, again, would suggest that you do it to music. That's what I would do, okay? But you also got to remember that it's just 2 ways that something could be done in each one of these groups, okay? And here, 2 ways are being done, but it's in group number 7. And again, these are called verbal what?
Stems.
Thank you. Verbal stems. Okay. They're verbal stems. Okay. So again, we have our root system under the ground. Okay. The stem is what comes out of the ground. Okay. Comes out of the ground. Okay. And then once this stem comes out of the ground, that's called a qual. And then it grows. And it has other stems off of that. Okay. And that's qual is really called a simple. Everything is always, and I want to teach you this. Yes. Every stem that comes out of the ground is never going to be anything but a simple. Okay. It's always going to be simple first. Here's your dirt. Here's your seed. Seed busts out, had a root system. Then it starts sprouting. Okay. That's a stem. Okay. Roots are under the ground, so you don't know what it is. So you have to go find it or dig. Got to dig to find out what the root is. The root is going to be a parent. It's going to be 2 letters. Okay. Once it comes out of the ground, this stem right here is a child of the parents. Here's the mother and the father. The child is the 3rd letter that's coming out, right? So you need 3 letters in order to have a stem. Okay. A verbal stem. There it is in a very simple way. What happens is that eventually off of that simple 3-letter word, okay, like it could be a call, it could be shamar, it could be shema, okay, it could be any of these words, any of these 3 letters, okay. Take any one you want. It's just 3 of them. So anytime you get a stem to come out of the ground, that is always going to be a simple action. It's always simple, and it's always perfect because it's the 3 letters, okay? That's been developed from the parent. How many kids can they have? How many legitimate children can they have?
Is it 2?
4. Check this out. So we're going to come back to this page in a second. I'm going to show you something because I want you to get this. And that's part of your learning. Like, okay. All right. What's that? What happened?
Ground.
Oh, wait a minute. What happened? This thing just tripped out on me. All right. Can you still see my screen?
Okay.
Okay, good. All right. So we got the ground. All right. Then we planted some seeds. Put a different color so you know what it is. We plant some seeds all over the place. It's a seed, okay? Eventually, over time, those seeds are going to have a little sapling. They're going to spread out, break out, and it's going to have a root. Okay. Male and female. Okay. Once that breaks out and it pops open, a stem is going to come out of the ground. Okay. On or beneath the ground is the root system. Okay. If it's a parent root, how many letters do I have?
2.
Because it takes 2 parents. Okay. So when I say parent, what I'm talking about are 2 letters, 2 consonants. Okay. All right. So for example, I'm going to put here a cough and a lament. Okay. Right here. So those are the parents, a cough and a lament. A cough is the palm of the hand, a lament is a staff. Okay, it means to be complete. And that's the character, or your name tells you your character, right? It tells you how you function, right? So in the Hebrew, the parents have children. Okay. And so the child is the 3rd letter. Okay, so I'll write it down here again. The child is 1, but you put the 2 plus 1 equals 3. So you got 3 letters now instead of 2 letters. Okay, so once the child comes out of the ground, right, and they're birthed and they come out, what they take along with them inside of their stem is both their parents, because they're made of the same, of the parent. So if I said that this stem just came out of the ground, the one I'm, making thick right here, so far, I know that the parents are who? What's the name of the parent so far?
The cough and the lament.
Cough and lament, okay? If I add a letter, 1 letter, just 1, to this stem, is going to be a child now. So the name of this child right here, okay, is called what?
A call.
A call. And what does a call mean?
To eat.
Eat. Okay. So it means to eat, right? That's what it means. Now, that is the simple definition of the meaning of this child. Okay. To eat. In the Hebrew, they have 4 let me see if I'm going to say it right. They have, well, that's 4. They have the ability to have how many children? How many children did Yaakov have?
Well,
Huh?
Well, 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
He had 13 children. Okay. 12 were boys and 1 was a girl. Okay. Generally, the girl is going to be exactly like her mother. And I'll give you an example. If I had a root called this right here, this is the father, this is the mother. If the daughter is just like the mother, then what letter would the daughter be?
A bait.
It would be a bait. Thank you. Okay. So you're going to see some roots that look like this. Okay. And there's other grammatical terms that they use. I'm just trying to get you to understand how do you look at the language? Don't look at it just as letters. Don't look at it just as grammar. Don't look at it that way. Look at it from an agricultural standpoint. Okay. So there's 13 kids that are possible out of the possible. It's not all parents are going to have it. Okay. Not every family has 13 kids. Okay. But how do you determine how these 13 kids come about? They come about with 4 letters. Okay. And I want you to remember this. How many wives did Jacob have? Yaakov have?
4.
He had 4. Okay. He had 4. Okay. 4 of these wives, he had to take a what in order to be with them? What did he take? What did he make? He made a vow. Okay. So in the Hebrew language, they have 4 vowels. Do you understand? And those 4 vowels are an aleph, a hey, a yod, let me put it in order, a wah, and a yod. These are the 4 letters that are vowels. They can be used as a vowel. Okay. So when you add these letters to any 2-letter root, you can change the meaning of that root just a little bit. It might have the same commonality, right? So for example, I'm gonna erase this right quick. So say, for example, the Kaf and Lamed had another child over here as well. All right. And out of those 4 letters, I already have the hey, the aleph, and then the next one's a hey, and the next one's a wah, and the next one is a yod. So this one right here is a child to come out. It's a little different. So instead of the aleph being in the front, the aleph can literally be right here in the middle. Okay. The next thing happens. The aleph can be on the end of this root. Still got the same root letters. They come out on the Kaf and Lamed. The next opportunity is, you see that?
Hmm.
So the aleph can move from the first position to the second position to the third position. Okay. So how many positions can this child root move in on a parent?
3.
3. It could be in the front, it could be in the middle, or it could be on the end. Just like what we're learning about our verb, you could put anything on the front, the middle, or the end, and that's a whole nother understanding about how this verb is functioning. So that's only one kid. Let's just call him a child. We call our aleph child. He can move in 4 different places. Okay. Now that we got that, let me move this over here. Let me clean this up very quick. And that's just an aleph. Get rid of this right quick. All right. Aleph. Middle. That's a possibility. That's the next opportunity possible. That's 3. That's 3 different children. There's 3 different kids right here, 3 different children all together. Okay. And that's based on the aleph child. They came out of that root, out of that family. Okay. Now let's do the next 3 over here. Let's change this and just put a bet and a let's see, a noon. A bet and a noon is the parents. Okay. That's just a root. A bet and a noon. So they're going to have a few kids too. Okay. So instead of using the aleph child, let's say that their child, you guys pick one out of the children. I'm gonna put the kids up here again, legitimate children. Because there's children that could be adopted. So out of these legitimate 4 children right here, we already used the Aleph as one, as a child, and that got us 3. We got 3 kids out of this family right here. Okay. Not to say that family can't use the ket, the hay or the wa or the yod. So here with the bet and the noon, you guys choose a child that you want out of this one, except for the Aleph. Let's scratch the Aleph. He's being used already.
Yod.
Yod? Okay, perfect. So the bet and the noon get together and they say, okay, we want to have a kid. Or we want to have a child. So they have a child. And the child that comes out is a bet, a yod, and a noon. Okay, that's the final noon. Okay. And this word just by itself called bean literally means understanding. Okay. The parents has to do with the house and the seed, because that's what a noon is a seed. Okay. Right. So they have another child, a bet, a noon, and put the yod on the end. Bani means my son or my building. Okay. Then you got the bet. Or where could the yod go? Yod can go right here in the front. Like that. You see? Also, too, not only could that happen, they say, well, we're not gonna have a whole bunch of yod kids. We could go here and we can have a bet, the noon, and an aleph. We could do the bet, the noon, and the hay. They could take any of these opportunities to create children. You understand? So because every one of these children up here have an opportunity to be born, and I'm using this information just to kind of get you to understand the family dynamic. Get rid of this right quick. If these are the children that are legitimate children from the 4 different vowels, okay? They can take 1 from here, they could take 2 from here, they could take 3 from here, they could take 1 from here. This call right here could take any of those. And if it did, it'd have 1, 3, right? 1 and 2 is 3, 6 and 7, they have 7 children. And these letters can be anywhere within that root. They could be in the middle. They could be in the middle like that. They could be, the aleph could be there. They could be in the front like that. They could be on the end of a hay. They could do any of those things. So, because I can have the aleph in 3 different places, I can have the hay in 3 different locations, I can have the wa in 3 different places, and I can have the yod in 3 different places. You add all those up together, you got 6 and 6, and that's 12. What was the 13th? The 13th is the duplicate, the mother like the daughter. It could be that. It could be a lamed and then another cough and another cough. It could be any of those things, okay? That could be your 13th child. So there's 13 opportunities, and that's how they come up with 13 kids. It's because each one of those letters have 3 opportunities to bring forth children, right? Into you. And what does that do for you? Well, it gives you the root of a 3-letter word. See, so let me write a word up here and you tell me who the child is, okay? Who's the child? Out of
Hey.
Hana.
The
The
hay.
hay. Perfect. That's the child. That is one of the legitimate children. That is the child. You're absolutely correct. So if this is the child, then who is the root? Who's the parent?
The bet and
The
the
baby.
noon.
The bet and the noon. Okay. I'm going to show you an example of what I'm saying. Let me show it to you. So you won't think I'm crazy. Let me show you things I have. Hebrew. Where's it at? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, let me see. You can't see it now, huh? Let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Now I'm going to show you. They're not teaching. What's going on? They're not teaching this to you because they don't spend their time with this. The Ashkenazis do not teach this, okay? Because this has to do with agriculture. They just want you to be on how to say stuff, and they've taken the language out of the Torah and said, well, we're going to go ahead and just make our words for our language out of the biblical language. That's what we're going to do, okay? Let me show you what I'm talking about. 36, 34. Right, no. Okay. All right. I need to give you a better example though. All right. All right. So listen. The first word in the Hebrew alphabet is the Aleph. Okay. And is identified with a picture. Okay. The picture is going to tell you what it is, like an ox or whatever, right? So, for example, when we look at a root, how many letters is for a parent?
2.
2.
Okay, so there's the root. Okay, the first letter that is written in the script, that is an Aramaic script. That's what it is. It's not Hebrew, it's Aramaic. This next letter right here is an Aramaic script. And they tell you what the ancient meaning is. Like the Aleph means an ox head. It means strength. The Bet means a tent, right? So they're giving agricultural understanding to what these letters actually mean, right? But right now, what you and I are talking about is how are they developed? Okay, how are they developed? How are they structured? How are they put together? So what they do is they tell you the basic meaning of it, right? What does it mean? Strength, father, and all this kind of stuff. We don't have time to go into that, but what I want to show you is, look at what they do here for letter B. Do you see what they're doing? Right here with B. Right here. But the Aleph and the Bet, which is the root, they've added a second Bet to let you know that that is a child root. That's the 13th child. Like that's the one, like mother, like daughter. They duplicate it. Okay. Then, so that's the first child that they had. Okay. That's the first child that they had. Okay. Well, look what happens next. The second child that they have is an Aleph and a what?
Wow.
A Y and a Bet. So who's the parent?
The
The
Aleph
Aleph
and
and the
the
Waw.
and the
And the
Bet.
Aleph and the Bet. They're the parents. The Y in the middle is the child.
Okay.
Okay. That. So watch what happens. So they'll tell you, well, this is what it means. It means a wineskin. You know, they give you definitions of what it means, which is cool. But the child will have some characteristics of the parent, but they're still their own person. You understand? So that's that. So go to 51. The next child right here is who?
The Yod.
the yod. So they had a bet for the second bet for a daughter, right? What else did we saw? We saw that they had a aleph and a wa and a bet. Then they had a third child, which is a yod, an aleph, and a bet. Okay. And that word means desire. That's their action. That's the child, what they'll do, right? And they'll tell you, well, their desire is for a tent to stand firm, and that's where they get this word from. What is the next child?
Another yod.
Is an aleph in the front though now, still the root of the word, and then they got a yod right here in the middle, and then they have the bet on the end. So one child, the main group or the name of this child is called Ya'av, and Ya'av is about desire. Then they have another child, and this child right here is called Ayiv, which means to be an enemy, right? So one is a desire for the tent pole to stand straight, because that's what the father means. The father of the tent, he's the pole of the tent who holds the tent up. Then they have a child called Desire. Well, desire is what? For the tent to stay up. So we'll name this child Desire. Then what's the next child? The next child is called Hostility. He's called Oyev. Why? Because the tent pole is used, the one that holds up the tent, the one who's desired to hold up the tent, is the one that's pointed at the end to fight off an enemy. You see? That's the next child. With that in particular root. And so every family of letters has children, just about. Okay. And that's it for that family. What's the letter here? What's the root? What's the name of the letters?
Aleph and the Gamil.
Aleph and a gamil. That's not the same as an aleph and a bet. So out of the aleph family, he's decided to go in, and this in particular, aleph is with it now with a gamil. And they can have children, possible. Because in the text, what? Some people had children and some people didn't. So who's the children for this family?
Don't see any.
Nobody.
Oh.
No. So no, there's no children, because the children would be an aleph, a hey, a wa, and a yod.
Okay.
If you don't see any of those letters, an aleph, a hey, a wa, and a yod inside of a root, the root will be by itself unless it decides to adopt a family, adopt a child. You understand? So I'm trying to get you to see that every family has children, and those children will have the same characteristics, a little bit like their parents, and they will function a little bit differently. Okay. Look at the aleph and the dalet, whole nother family. Right. So that's the root. Then you come over here. Why is it a child? Why is this a child?
Because there's a wa.
There's a wa in the middle. But I thought you said that there's an aleph, a hey, a wa, and a yod. They can have any one of these as their child. And that child can be in any three positions. They might get lucky and be like, oh, let's put an aleph on this kid. Oh, let's put the aleph in the middle of this one. Okay, we got another aleph, child type aleph. Let's put him on the end. You see what I'm saying? So they have all kind of kids. So here you got the wa right here. And then here it tells you what the noun is and it describes it. Okay. Let's find, so that's J. So that's one child for that family. Okay. For the aleph and dalet. Oh, they got another child. So they had two kids. Their second child right here, instead of it being a Y, it's a what?
Yod.
A yod. Okay. Now let me show you something. Now that you understand that concept and you understand what's going on here, you will find that these three letters are children, legitimate children, if they have either one of the aleph, the hey, the wa, and the yod in it. They're legitimate of a natural born child, okay, of that family. If they don't have any of those letters, an aleph, a hey, They don't have these letters in there. They're not a legitimate child. They then would be called a adopted child. Okay. So if these are legitimate children, what would a 3-letter root look like for an adopted child? I'll put a family up here and you tell me. Let me get rid of this. I'll put a word up here and you tell me if it is a legitimate child. That's called shamar. Is that a natural born child?
No.
Yes.
No, it's not. Why isn't it not a natural born child?
It doesn't have four.
There's
Four
not an
vowels.
aleph in there. So you know it's
No.
not from Leah. You know it's not from Raquel. You know it's not from Bilhah. You know it's not from Ziplah. There's no hey there. There's no wah, and there's no yod.
Okay.
So when you see words that don't have one of these letters in it, you should know that that's not a legitimate child. That's an adopted root. So when a family can't have, right, natural born children, okay, they may take on an adopted child. Or you could have, if you look at shamar, right, which is the shin, the mem, and the resh. If you look at this word right here, it has a shin and a mem in it. And we know that, you got all type of words called shema. That means to listen and hear, right? Is this a natural born child?
No.
No, it's not. So it's an adopted root. Okay, still a child, but it's not a natural born child. Okay, so that's what it is. So let me show you what adopted children look like, so you can understand it. Where's my book? Where is my book? Oh, okay. I'm going to show you an adopted root. You say, well, why are we going over this? Because if you don't understand this, when you're looking at words in Hebrew, it'll be difficult for you because you'll be like, I don't know where this has come from. I can't find a root. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I can't find it. So let's go for a 3-letter adopted roots. And we're going to go right here on number 2004. Okay. Let's go right here. And this stuff that I'm teaching you guys is good stuff, man. Wish somebody would have taught it to me. Let's go right here. 2004. I'm sharing it with you because as you move into your understanding, okay? So at the top of this page here, it says adopted roots. And this is from the family, the Bet family, okay? So you got an Aleph family and you got a Bet family, okay? The first word that you see right there is called what?
Magad.
Yeah, Bagad or Baged. Good job. And that means to cover. It means to be deceitful in some type of way, okay? Most High told us don't be treacherous with your wife of your youth in the book of Malachi, chapter number 2, I believe, okay? So here, this is adopted root, okay? And if it's an adopted root and it's 3 letters and it's from the Bet family, then you should know, okay, well, it doesn't have the aleph, it doesn't have the hey in it, it doesn't have the y in it, and it doesn't have the yod in it. So it must be adopted, okay? So is there any of these 4 letters within this word right here?
No.
No, there's not. There's nothing in there, okay? That's to let you know that it's adopted. Let's go over here. Is there any of those 4 letters in Badak?
No.
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 They just been adopted into the family. You understand? So if we want to know, like they'll show you here, let me show you something. And why am I talking? I'm talking about this because we're talking about stems. We're talking about how things come out of the ground. Okay. So if a family can't have children, they'll adopt some kids, you know? So we see that opportunity. We see that that's an opportunity. This one right here, 2014 right here. It's in the Bed family, but there's no legitimate child. Okay. There's no legitimate child right here. So that's what I'm saying. And guess what they told you? Where are you going to get it? Where do you get it from? They tell you here that if you want to find out who the parent is, they'll tell you who the parent is. From means it's coming from the bet and the tav. So the lamed is what's added to that in order to make it a root that's out of the ground. Okay. And if it's 3 letters, it's a child root. If it's 2 letters like this right here, it's the parent. Okay. So parents that can't have natural born children, they go and they find other things to add to them, other letters to add to themselves so they can create a family. That was my whole point of bringing you into this exercise. So you can understand, like, even when you're looking up words in the Hebrew and in the Bible Hub, you're going to see some words. You'll be like, well, wait a minute. I got to find out what that word is. So how do I find it? You know, how do I legitimately find what the root is? Let's look at something here. Right here, mitok. All right. I'm on Bible Hub right now. This word right here is called tavek, okay? Tavek, and it means in the middle. Are you guys familiar with any type of construction? How can contractors, they got this product called tavek. There is an actual product called tavek. And what it means is the insulation, all right? You know the insulation that goes in between your walls? It's called tavek. So even within our culture, you'll see them using words of the Hebrew language to describe things. Go look it up. Go to Home Depot and look up what insulation is in a house, and it's called tavek. Okay. The gas station. You guys ever heard of Chevron gas station?
Yes.
Yes. Well, guess what the real name is? It's Chevron.
Mm.
It's not Chevron, it's Chevron. They replaced the B with this V sound, and they call it Chevron, but it's called Chevron. And in English, they tricked us and said, well, we're going to change it from the Chevron, like Chevron. And it's really, they put it in English as Chevron, so you won't know what it is. Hebron. It's not Hebron, it's called Chevron. And Chevron is a city in Israel. So that gas station, Chevron, is really Chevron. Okay. You guys ever heard of Levi jeans?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They stole that. Comes from Lewi. Okay. To be connected. And if you look at the symbol on the jeans, they got 2 horses with a man in the middle. Right? They were ripping us apart and in pieces. Just some little tidbits of information. Question for you. Tavek. Is this a child root?
Yes.
How do you know it's a child root?
It has a Y in the middle.
It has a Y. It's a legitimate child. How many letters are here in this word?
Three.
3 consonants. So it is a child root. And it is a legitimate child root because you're right. It has the Y in it. Okay. So it won't be a problem for me to go find that. So if I wanted to find out who the parent is, and I had to go look up the parent, what 2 letters would I be looking for?
Tau and the Kaf Sofi.
Yes, absolutely. And that'd tell you the idea behind Tavek. Because Tavek is just a piece of the parents together. He just, he might have some similarities. Okay. He might be almost identical. Who knows? Okay. So that's it. how about this one? I'm teaching you guys some so you're learning. Oh boy, these ads are killing me. So this is from the Samak family. Okay. Who's a child?
The
The
head,
noon,
Okay. Who's the parent?
the Samek and the noon.
Thank you. You see, you guys are getting it right. This is how you train yourself. Okay. Looking for something that doesn't have it in there. Okay. Because you see a lot of them do have it in there. A lot of them have alepphs and all this kind of stuff. I'm looking for ones that don't. Oh, here's one. To draw near. Okay. So when you look at a word like karav, right? Karav. Karav literally means to draw near. Okay. Means to come close, to near and approach. As you see, they're always adding vowels in here so you can pronunciate the word. So what you do is you get rid of these, and then you qualify this down here. You say, oh, that's the Q. Oh, which one's, oh, that's the R. Oh, okay, which one is this one on the end? That's a bet. It doesn't have a dot in it. Why? Because it's not the first letter in the actual pronunciation. So it's karav, and it won't be that B sound. It will actually be a soft V sound, okay? So, but if you did want to see what the vowels are, you can just expand it and look at it like this. Hold on. And you can find those vowels that you learned in your Hebrew class with me. Let's connect it. This is how you're going to get better in Hebrew. I'm giving you the tools. The first letter right here is this quof right here, and there it is. Okay? That's what you got to start. When you see this right here, you need to think about Q. Not a K, a Q. The A underneath it is this right here. And you know that's a long. Then you got the next letter, which is the resh. So in English, it's R. Then they got another A underneath it, which is a short. Qua, Rav. And then here, boom, there you go. That's the bet. You see? So we got 3 letters. So it makes it what kind of root? Parent or child?
Adopted
Child.
It's a child root. Is it a legitimate child or is it an adopted child?
adopted,
adopted.
It's adopted. Thank you. It's not a legitimate child because it doesn't have an aleph, a hey, a wa, or a yod. Okay? It doesn't. It doesn't have it. Okay? So that's how you're going to find out what something is. So I want you to also pick up on how the Westerners have turned this spelling into a K. You see how they call it ka, rav? It's not ka. It's not. How do you make a Q sound?
Qua.
Qua. If it's on the end of something, like if it's RAQ, would it be rock? Well, you would make a K sound at that point. Okay. Or if it's in the middle, you might make it depends on the, where it falls in the syllables. But this right here, that right there is Western European style. And the reason why they're putting a K there is because they don't want you to call it what it is. If you call something a qua, rav, this is the ancient Semitic Afro-Asiatic way of saying something. They don't want you to say this qua. Like Quanisha, they don't want you to say qua. They don't want you to say it. They want to get that off of you. The qua is like, what's this word right here?
Sadiq.
Yes,
Sadiq.
Zadik.
Sadiq. Oh,
And what is Zadik?
Righteous.
Righteous.
There you go. There you go. It's righteous. Okay. And you got that just by saying sa and then deek right here. That's a D sound, and that's the two E's, and then that's a Q. So sa, deek. Okay. Sound like that K, but if that's it, zadik, being righteous. So once you get your vocabulary together, you'll know what these things are. And it's a, you know, and zazik can be a noun. It can also be a verb, an action. Okay. You can take a righteous action. So that's what I wanted to show you guys tonight, is that you can teach yourself Hebrew and practice this and just look at a word and kind of look at it and say, okay, let me add this stuff up. Let me see what it is. You know, you may say, well, why should I know about the child root versus the parent root? Just as long as I know how to say it. No. If you know what the, okay. Remember, you guys, you're talking about agriculture. So whatever you put in the ground is what it really is. No one can fool you if you know the root system. You understand? You got to know your roots. Because then when it comes out, you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. Okay. I know what that is. Oh, that's a call. A very simple way of doing it. Oh, okay. But, oh, a call. Yeah, that's a child. Okay. So the parents are this. Okay. And that's the seed in the hand. Okay. What would a staff do in the palm of the hand in terms of eating? Think about that for a second. What is that? What's the connection between a staff and a palm of the hand? And it has to do with eating. Well, agriculturally, they would have a staff in their hand. And what they would do is when they put their seeds out, they would use that staff to press it into the ground. And then the food would come out. Coal also has to do with what? Taming. And what am I going to tame? I'm going to tame the ground. So once the ground is tamed, right? And I've turned it into what I wanted to turn it into, and then it's ready to bring forth the produce. Once I tamed it, it's ready to do what I need it to do. And then it brings forth the fruit that I need. Then I do a harvest when it's ready to go. You see? That's why you got to know the root system. You just don't want to know the grammar. You want to know what stuff means. And you want to know how it works and how it functions. Because if you don't understand how its function is, then you don't understand its purpose. Okay. And then they got a whole bunch of other things called weak verbs. You know, weak stems. There's some stems that are weaker and there's some are strong. Okay. Last one right here. Is this a legitimate child or adopted child?
Adopted.
Adopted. Okay. And more than likely, if I wanted to find out who the parents were, then I would say the first two letters of the parents. Somebody tell me why I would make that assumption. Think about the child root. The child root can be put in the front, the middle, or the
Okay.
You understand?
Mhm.
So an adopted child is someone who's being what?
Added.
Added to what?
The
To
end.
to the family. You see? Now, if you want to know what a eval looks like, according to what we got right here, what are the evals in this in particular root right here?
The resh and the
Segol.
dalet.
What are the vowels?
Segol.
The
Also, Segol.
Those three dots. That's an E. That's that eh. So I got first one is re, and then the second one is G, E-H, and then an L on the end. How do I say that?
Regel.
Regel. And the regel means a foot. Okay. So that's what it is. Okay. That's what it is. Hope you guys were able to